While Japan begins to reject ESG investments, the Pokemon Company International posts job listing for Director of DEI and Social Responsibility. Oh boy, hugs all around, right? Yeah, no. This story comes to us from Spencer Bakuli over at Bounding Into Comics. The Pokemon Company International is on the hunt for a new Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Social Responsibility. Just slap all those things into one job title. It's so efficient, you know? Yes, you heard that correctly. The Pokemon Company, known for its lovable characters and engaging games, is jumping on the DEI bandwagon. Now, while that's not entirely surprising given the current corporate climate in America, it's worth taking a closer look at this move, especially considering the company's roots in Japan. Japan has been divesting itself of ESG funding sources that emphasize concepts like diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yet, here we have the Pokemon Company International, based in the US, pushing for the DEI initiatives that Japan is trying to force out. Let's be real here. The Pokemon is a global phenomenon adored by fans of all ages and backgrounds. But does that mean that we need to inject DEI principles into every aspect of its operation? Not necessarily. Japan's business culture is vastly different from that of the USA, and it's built on tradition, hierarchy, and group harmony. Introducing Western style DEI initiatives into a Japanese owned company might not only be ineffective, but it could also be seen as tone deaf. In Japan, meritocracy and seniority often take precedence over diversity quotas and affirmative action. So, why force fit DEI requirements onto a company that operates within a different cultural framework? Moreover, Japan's recent shift away from ESG funding sources speaks volumes about its skepticism towards Western-led corporate governance standards. While CSR initiatives are valued in Japan, they are approached in a way that aligns with the country's unique cultural and social norms. And this is important to remember, right? Because you must remember that while we like to have this overview of Japan, that it all looks like Tokyo and it's this wonderful place where everybody shake hands and nobody fights, this is not the case. The Japanese people are just like you and me. They bleed red. They put their pants on one leg at a time, too. These are normal people that have normal problems like you and me. They're not some special space aliens. What they've managed to do is protect their culture over the years, whereas the US has a melting pot where certain groups from other countries come in and they add to our culture. Whereas in Japan, they have a very restrictive nature around that. They want things to stay the same. In fact, there's a saying in lower level government that it has always been this way, so it always will be in Japan. This is a saying that you'll hear from people working in like DMV, for instance. When you ask them questions about why this is this way, they will tell you that it has always been this way, and so it will always be. You see, the Japanese seek efficiency. So when something works, they tend not to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? And everything seems to be, going pretty well at the moment after the introduction of womenomics. So they figure, why keep pressing the envelope and cause a total cultural collapse? Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice if we had leaders that actually paid attention to what was going on rather than lived in their little bubbles? But I digress. Back to Pokemon. Now, don't get me wrong, Pokemon has always celebrated diversity and inclusivity. Look at the diverse range of characters in the Pokemon movies and games, but there's a difference between organic representation and forced diversity initiatives driven by Western corporate trends. Need I say more? Just take a look at MCU. Just look at the train wreck of the MCU, the MCU as it's known. All these initiatives to try and push forward these corporate agendas, these cultural shifting agendas, and look what happened. It dove into the ground to where the new Captain America movie, people won't even sit through it to screen it. They get up and leave a free screening. It's so bad. At the end of the day, what truly matters is the magic of Pokemon, the joy it brings to millions of fans around the world. Whether you're battling in the games, trading cards with friends, or watching the animated series, Pokemon transcends cultural boundaries and brings people together. So that's why this DEI thing is ridiculous. Pokemon's never made an effort to be exclusionary. It's never said you must be Japanese to enjoy this. You must be of a certain skin pigment, a certain religion, a certain creed, a certain racial background in order to enjoy this. No, that is not at all what Pokemon has been about. In fact, it's kind of done everything it can since the beginning to force off that identity that it's a completely different world where everybody does different things and somehow the Pokemon don't end up involved in war. I've always wondered that myself, but here we are. In conclusion, the Pokemon Company's international pursuit of diversity and inclusion rather, is conclusion in the case of some businesses, might be well intended, but it's worth questioning whether it's truly necessary or appropriate given the company's Japanese roots. Let's continue to celebrate the spirit of Pokemon while being mindful of the cultural differences that inspired it and why it is so important here in the US because of those cultural differences. Now, I tripped over this article a little bit because I care a lot about Japan. I don't want to go there. I'm not a weeb. I don't speak Japanese. I don't live anime. I just have an appreciation for these people that have done so well at protecting their culture. I'm envious of how much they care about their own people. And this is why it bothers me when I see a corporation that's not doing anything wrong. I mean, that's a very rare thing, right? Nintendo goes out and sues people, right? Just ridiculously all the time about their stuff. But they're not going out there and bothering people on a racial basis, on a religious basis, on anything other than, hey, that's our stuff, or we think that's our stuff, so we're suing you. I mean, I can't blame them. It seems logical, even if they are aggressive about it. So when you go and you see this company from Japan that's massively successful, you find me a kid, an adult even, under the age of 40, that doesn't know about Pokemon, at least in the thinnest manner. You have to go to like Sentinel Island, where they don't even have electricity or Game Boys, right? They don't have Game Boys on Sentinel Island. So this is one of those things where it's like, why do you need to force this on Pokemon? It's not, it's made by Japanese people. How much more diverse does it need to be to get into the American market? Apparently, a lot. And it's very annoying that this is happening. And also, you can expect that from here on out, the American versions of Pokemon will likely skew much harder to the left than they ever have before. While back at home in Japan, what's released to the domestic market will remain the same, friendly and helpful, and everybody can get involved. How about that? I'll see you in the next Japanese edition of Pokemon. Screw that American stuff, right? We don't need those adaptions.